20 to 33-year-old professionals to work a full day with urgency.
It's the lack of wages.
Now, before we dive in, just a quick reminder. This video is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and should not be considered financial advice. Our full disclaimer is shown here and on our website. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of us reacting to finance TikToks. So today we're going to be covering three main topics. The first being AI. How is AI going to transform your life, your workplace, your daily activities, all of these great items? The next thing is, how do you actually invest your money? What are the key things you need to start doing right now to invest your money in the long term so you can actually make your money work for you? And finally, we're going to talk about the state of the job market. Why is morale at an all-time low? And why is it that people, basically we need more money. That's the long and short of it. But yeah, we're going to talk through these today. And yeah, we have a few videos here for some great creators. So let's dive right in. This first video is from a creator called Sabrina_Ramanov. And she's going to talk to you about how you can actually start learning AI right now in 2025.
More excuses. 2025 needs to be the year you finally learn AI. I know it's on your New Year's resolution and you don't have to pay any money at all to get started. In this video, I'm going to share 3 courses that walk you through the basics of AI and ChatGPT. All of them are 100% free. But first, save this video and bookmark it for later so you don't forget. Number 1, elements of AI. It's already had 1 million students around the world. First part of the course starts at the very beginning. What is AI? What is AI problem solving? Real world applications of AI. The second part of the course goes into more detail about the math and theory of AI, such as machine learning and neural networks. Course number 2, if you want to learn how to use ChatGPT effectively, this is a free playlist on YouTube, ChatGPT for Beginners. It has 25 videos that walks through the beginning. What is ChatGPT? How do you use it? Is it free to use? How do you attach files and long prompts? How do you use it on your phone? What's the difference between ChatGPT models? How do you build a custom GPT? How do you use ChatGPT for learning, for work, for productivity, for content creation, etc.? Course number 3 is AI Python for Beginners. And I recommend this for everybody just to get the fundamentals of coding. And I like this course because it's free and it walks through several hands-on projects, such as a custom recipe generator, smart to-do list, travel blog analyzer, vacation planner, data visualization. And you learn the basics of Python, how to use it for scripting and automation, and also how to call APIs such as OpenAI, ChatGPT. All of these courses are free. Here's the links to all of them. So you have zero excuses as to why you are not starting these courses today.
So let's talk through, why should I learn AI? So you're probably thinking to yourself, AI is a thing, that only the guys in the future are going to be using, but that's completely wrong. Many of you probably grew up around the time when computers were first introduced. Computers were starting to be introduced in schools. It was starting to, actually be converted in the office buildings. Computers were actually the AI of the past. Now AI, which is a tool that is actually being used to make our lives a lot easier, whether it's automating certain processes, allowing you to actually look up things. So for example, if there's like a document, for example, that you want to look up certain key terms, AI is actually allowing you to do that. It's also keeping track of many things that you have it work on in different workflows. AI is the future of the world. And to be honest, a lot of people out there, whether you're in accounting, whether you're in finance, heck, whether you're working in retail, whatever you're working in, AI is going to touch your life at some point. It's already being rolled out in a lot of organizations. A lot of organizations are putting a lot of research and development, R&D costs, into developing AI models to actually replace a lot of the tedious things that are done at the company, whether it's done by accountants, whether it's done by your engineering team. It doesn't actually matter. AI is coming here soon, to a location near you, of course. And if you want to remain relevant here in the workforce, you need to actually learn AI. If you don't learn AI, you're going to be left behind. Your skills are going to become Your skills are going to become stale, and you might not even become hireable. There's people out there who still know the old technology of the past, and that's actually hurting them from getting hired. It's making them basically unhireable. in this new and developing technological space that we have. So in order for you to stay relevant, you need to learn AI, and you need to be able to incorporate it into what you do day by day. It's either learn AI or be left behind by those who know AI. So hopefully you make the right choice. And yeah, let's learn AI together now in 2025. So this next content creator is called Humphrey Talks, and he's actually going to talk to you about 4 great spending habits, that will keep you rich and of course reduce your expenses in your pocket.
4 money habits keeping you poor, and if you want to be rich, you want to make sure to avoid these. Number 1 is paying for status. So in modern society, everyone wants to show how much status they have by driving a fancy car or buying designer clothes. But the problem is that most people can't afford it. The average car payment these days in America is now $742 per month. Number 2 is being cheap. So I know that this sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes being cheap with certain items will cost you more money in the long run. I'd rather buy one high quality item once instead of buying cheap items again and again. Number 3, trying to...
So let's talk through these 2 first points. The first one is trying to keep up with other people by, for example, buying that new Gucci bag, buying that Ferrari, buying that new Tesla. All of these things are actually making you poorer and poorer by the second. And the reason for that is because of you trying to keep up with everyone. You're actually probably putting yourself into a lot of debt. You're not actually investing any of this money. You're putting this all into assets that are depreciating very quickly. So usually new cars, for example, depreciate, they're usually in the first 2 or 3 years, it's probably 30%. It's just, it's gone. And that's on average, of course. So the other thing is, instead of investing like in the S&P 500, real estate, all these items that will give you more value and will appreciate value, you're investing in things that will have no value after a certain amount of time. And yeah, you're keeping yourself poor that way. The second thing is, of course, I am of the same nature where I don't buy something that's too cheap. Because, for example, like you buy like a shirt or a hoodie, for example, you wash it a couple of times and it's one of the cheaper qualities, it's going to deteriorate after a while. You're going to see the logo kind of, get phased out and all that fun stuff. So I would say I agree where, don't buy something that's super expensive. Don't buy like that $500 or $1,000 hoodie, but buy a hoodie or buy, quality materials that, or quality items, of course, that will last, you could last 200, 300, 400 washes, will last maybe 5 to 10 years. Those are the kinds of products that you should be investing in, and they don't usually cost much. For example, there's a lot of outlet stores, for example, that sell like the North Face, that sell Levi, that sell these kinds of products, which I use heavily. And yeah, it's, those are products that I've kept for years, and, they still retain the coloration of the clothes and things like that. So overall, it's, definitely I agree here in that regard.
Trying to keep up with your friends. Your financial journey is unique to you, so don't feel pressured to match your friends' spending. When I was making around $50K per year, my friend would always invite me to these lavish Michelin star dinners, and that was just unsustainable. If they are a true friend, they will understand if you say to them that you're not willing to splurge on the same things that they might want to spend their money on. Before we get into number 4, if you want to get better with your finances, I suggest hitting that follow button so that you can get more videos like this. Number 4 is paying the minimum on a credit card, because if you do this, you are going to cost yourself a lot more in the long run due to a credit card's high interest rate.
So yeah, let's talk through those last 2 items. The first one is choosing your friends wisely. So it's very, very common, in your 20s to actually go out, enjoy life. That doesn't mean you can't do that. I'm not saying you can't do that. However, think about this carefully. If you're spending $200 to $300 a week, eating out, going to bars, drinking out, all of these things are actually hurting you so much financially. Because what you can do with that money instead is, either invest it in the stock market, put into real estate investment trusts, put into real estate, heck, even buy some Bitcoin. That's probably better than buying, spending those $300 a week or whatever on, at the bar. Now, choosing your friends wisely is very important. When I was growing up, I had really great friends, who I hung out with. And all of our activities were really fun and inexpensive. So just to give you a little bit more context, I actually grew up playing handball, which was, basically a free sport. All you did was buy like a ball that was like $1. and you go to a public park, and hey, you would have hours of fun just by doing that. And then afterwards, me and my friends would actually go out and buy, so back then you could actually get dumplings 10 for $2 and in Arizona for $3. So essentially that was like our $3 lunch. And then for dinner, we actually hit up Chinatown right here in New York, and you could actually find a lot of really great restaurants for like $5 a plate. You could even find sushi for like 6 pieces for $3 because there was a lot of 50-cent sushi places, 50 cent per roll sushi places, so you could get 6 pieces for $3. It's all about finding the deals while most importantly having a great time with your friends. I think that's key and something that we sometimes we don't think about. It's not about the food you're eating, it's about who you're spending your time with. I think that's more key than anything. And finally, about the credit cards, yes, do not pay the minimum, guys. Please, if you're paying the minimum, those credit card companies are destroying you. Some of these interest rates are like 25 to 40% per year. So essentially you're just throwing away your money. So something that probably was like $100, by the time you pay it off by paying off the minimums, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. You're probably paying like $400 or $500 if you just keep paying the minimum, because of that minimum, most of it's just going to interest. And that's why, paying the minimum, and they always keep the minimum very low. They're like $25, $40, but most of us aren't probably spending $100. We're probably spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, and they're making you pay $25. That's how they get you. That's how they get you, guys. And so don't pay the minimum, pay more than a minimum. And what I personally do is I pay the full balance every month because I don't want them to take a single cent of my money, in interest. So let's move on to the next content creator.
Hello everyone, my name is Anthony and I'm the host of the Log Sanctuary. I hope you've been enjoying our content so far, and if you have, please feel free to like and subscribe. Also, we have our website up here, and we also have some socials down here. And as always, leave your comments down below.
So this next content creator is Call to Leap. So he's actually going to talk about how he actually achieved financial independence. He actually achieved financial independence in his, I believe, early 30s. So definitely someone who I look up to. I'm still on my journey myself to get into financial independence. So I appreciate anything he has to say.
And my answer is always by following this sheet. And their response is always, oh, you probably use the 50-30-20 budgeting method where you save and invest at least 20% of your paycheck each month. Track all your expenses on a budgeting sheet like this. Increase your skills, specifically the ones right here, where you probably learn for free from places like these, so you could ultimately increase your earned income. And my answer is yes, but I also invested in the stock market, where I invested in S&P 500 companies, collected dividends, and sold covered calls. But what I'm most proud of about myself was that I lived a humble and frugal life by not getting into deep consumer debt or buying things to impress other people. And I always kept learning by reading books like these, shifted my mindset from working for my money to letting my money work for me so I could ultimately live a healthy, wealthy life. If you're watching this video, this is your calling to take control of your finances. Start by reading this book and track everything on this sheet, and this is all free in my bio, or you can tag a friend in the comments and I'll send it to both of you right now. Live humbly, save and invest your money, and let's all get to financial freedom faster.
So let's address the points that he's making. The main thing that he's saying is you have to invest. And what I mean by that is not just investing in, the stock market, investing, investing in real estate. All of these is just one aspect of investing. The other thing you need to invest in is in your skills. Always applying yourself, always learning new skills, learning what's out there, learning what's relevant in your marketplace, your workplace, your way of life. Because the more relevant your skills are and the more up to date your skills are, the more earning potential you have, the more of an asset that the company will see you, and the more of an asset you are to yourself, in the sense that you can actually use this newfound knowledge to automate things, to make things a lot better for yourself. And that's what you want in life. You want to make things a little bit more automated. The other aspect is to invest in your life. And what I mean by this is, make the sacrifice to be able to actually be frugal, to actually not spend as much as you need to. Because sometimes it's very easy for lifestyle inflation to creep up as you earn more money, as you make more money. It's very easy to go from the $5 steak to that Wagyu like $1,000 steak. There's steaks out there that are probably like a few grand. What I'm trying to say here is that you don't need to do that. You could probably upgrade from like the $5 steak to the $10 steak. That's fine, but don't invest every single penny that you get into your new lifestyle. That's not what you want to do. You want to invest whatever you do get extra into actual investments, into things that will better your life in the long run. And finally, invest in your health, invest in your well-being, because these are, mental health and being, active, whether it's in the gym or actually, even taking yoga, whatever you want to do to actually keep your mental health in check. Your body is the key to making money, in the sense of if your body is in a bad place or your mind is in a bad place, you won't be able to actually do the things you want to do, be with the people you want to be, and make your life what you want it to be. Alrighty, so let's move on to the next content creator. So this next content creator is called Basic Financial Literacy. And let's see what he has to say about those jobs that are going to get wiped out in the next couple of years. So it's not going to be wiped out completely, but you're going to start to see a lot less of these kinds of positions. And just to keep it transparent with y'all, it's probably AI that's going to try to replace y'all. So, the key thing is, as I always just said in this video, keep your skills relevant, learn how AI works, learn how it's relevant to your industry. And if it's something that is going to impact your industry, keep your skills relevant and make yourself adaptable and movable in this economy.
Jobs that are expected to disappear the quickest in the next 5 years, according to the World Economic Forum. It did say in the report that 170 million jobs will be created and 92 million will be displaced, so that is a net gain. But if you're in one of these fields, expect to see a decline in the next 5 years. Accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll clerks are number 7. I don't ever see those roles disappearing completely, but a lot of that can be done by automation. Printing and
just want to say that I'm actually in the accounting industry myself, and just to keep it transparent with everyone, the accounting industry is actually in a very weird place right now, where we do have a combination of AI replacing very front end roles like staff accountant, like very basic bookkeeping, basic data entry, but we also have a shift in accountants not even going into the field. So we do have like a double whammy of like people being replaced, but at the same time people just not going into the industry just because of the high requirements, high education requirements such as CPA and things like that. And also you don't really get the pay that you deserve in most cases for the amount of education and worth that you have to do just to make it to controller level, which is like director level in a lot of cases. So definitely, yeah. So just want to phrase that as well for everyone.
In related trades workers, that's kind of broad, but that's number 6. Administrative assistants and executive secretaries are expected to decline the 5th fastest. That one is interesting because a lot of executives will tell you that their administrative assistants and secretaries are indispensable. On the other hand, a lot of their job can be automated, so expect them to be needed less and less. Number 4, cashiers and ticket clerks. Go to any grocery store, no real surprise there. They're trying to funnel you through the self-checkout line. Number 3, data entry clerks. Again, something that can be easily automated. Bank tellers are number 2. I can't remember the last time I stepped in a physical bank, so no real surprise there. And the fastest declining job in the next 5 years, according to the World Economic Forum, is postal service clerks.
So let's actually talk through why are these jobs disappearing. So the main thing, just like I mentioned earlier, is AI. So a lot of companies out there, what is one of the largest things on their books? It's salary expense. A lot of companies out there are paying crazy amount of salaries for certain positions. Sometimes, for example, just to give you some context, some companies have like 4 to 10 executive assistants for the entire executive team. And even if it's 40 or 60,000 you're paying each one, let's say that's 600,000, for those 10. If you could actually automate a lot of the functions of, executive assistants through AI and only have to hire 1 to 2 to manage the function of 10, then, that's going to hit your bottom line a lot less. So as we start to continue to adapt, the frontline workforce, the guys who are, in the grind, doing the data entry, doing the things that, essentially not many of us want to do anyways. AI is going to try to make that go away, but at the same time, people who, maybe they enjoy those kinds of roles, and maybe that's the only lifestyle they know, which is common. Sometimes, many of us, including myself, get complacent in our roles, and we're like, hey, if we've been doing this same thing for the past 20 years, why change it now? The market doesn't work that way. The market continues to evolve, continues to change. So what's going to keep us able to actually keep a job is to become, it's weird to say this, but we're going to have to become like part IT, like hybrids. We're going to be IT and accounting, or we're going to be IT and, executive assistant. There's going to be some form of IT where you're actually going to have to know how AI works, how API connections work, and actually how the tools you're using overlap with each other, and what are the downstream impacts of just doing one thing using an AI automation versus the way you did it before. So all these are going to be key things that you're going to need to do if you want to retain your job and retain the earnings that you're making right now. So this next creator is FM Smith 319, and he's actually going to talk about, hey, why aren't people working as much as they used to? But let's dive right into this video.
Else having the troubles that we are with getting these millennial 20 to 33-year-old professionals to work a full day with urgency.
It's the lack of wages. People aren't being paid enough in 2025. And this criticism isn't towards this creator directly. I'm just speaking general in corporations. Nobody should be making less than $20 an hour in 2025. Even a 19-year-old should be making $20 an hour at whatever job they're working if they want a shot at qualifying for apartment with a roommate. And for these corporations that are requiring bachelor's and master's degrees, where someone has to go to school for 6 years, get $100,000 in debt, and have an $800 a month payment for 20 years to get that job, and you're gonna start them off at $25 or $27 an hour, bare minimum, $40, if not $50 an hour. And now businesses are gonna say, well, we can't afford that. That's not our fault. It is not our fault that apartments are $2,200, that houses are $400,000, that college is $25,000 a year, and daycare is $1,500 a month per child. That's not our fault. In order for us to live and thrive and be happy and not be burnt out, people need $40 an hour so that we can participate in this economy. So we can invest for our future, we can have a little fun, and we can feel productive that we're making progress in our life. So corporations need to get together, and you need to figure out how to fix the cost of this entire world, or you need to figure out how to pay people more money. If you were to pay somebody $80,000 to $100,000 to $120,000 a year, you're gonna see a lot less burnout.
Now let's talk through the economic implications of what he's saying. So essentially, he's saying the new minimum for people who have, get into degrees should be at least $40 an hour, which I completely understand. There's sometimes people out there who spend between $200,000 to $300,000 in tuition in these higher end programs. So I understand that. I completely agree where, getting into that much debt and then getting paid $25 to $30 an hour is not ideal. Now, let's look at the inflationary impacts of this. So the one thing that the Federal Reserve actually looks at is how much has wage growth gone up. If we instead make the minimum, across the board, $20 an hour, let's say for federal make to $20 an hour for every single state, that's actually going to create something called inflationary pressure on businesses, where businesses will say, okay, so now we used to charge $5 for a burger. Now that we have to pay $20 an hour to every single employee, plus there's a domino effect. Once you start paying $20 minimum to your starting employee, then you gotta actually pay a little bit more to every single level above them usually, because they're gonna come back and say, hey, how is someone who's starting making $20 an hour when I'm making $20 an hour? And that's gonna effectively create a domino effect where everyone's gonna get a bump up, just so everyone's happy, everyone keeps working. However, that also causes businesses to say, hey, maybe we just don't need as many people then, because we just can't afford this many people at these new wages. So a lot less people are going to be hired for positions. There's going to be a lot more intensity in the marketplace where employers are going to be more selective on who they hire. They're not going to be able to hire everyone, and yeah, that's the first thing you're going to think about. And of course, everything's going to go up. Prices are going to go up. That $5 burger you had, now it's going to be $8-10 for that burger, and that's that drives the economy in the sense as inflation goes up, interest rates, borrowing costs, they stay high. It creates a very downward impact of like, hey, I get it. And I understand that. People need more money. And, the corporations will then have to pay more money to actually make people, actually have the ability to afford life. Now, personally, I think the best way we can actually, achieve a little bit more harmony in corporations is maybe the disproportion of income in corporations is probably like the big driver of things. So we actually have, there's a report, here that says, hey, 10 to 20% of, a company's salary, this is public data, 10 to 20% of a company's salary usually goes, and this is like the base minimum, by the way, usually 10 to 20% base of a company's total salary goes to the upper management. This is the C-suite. These are the executive vice presidents. These are the very top guys at an organization. And you have some executives out there making up to $10 to $20 million a year. Well, someone who's like in a manager role like I am, probably making between like 100 to 150 a year, which is nothing compared to, the insurmountable salary that some of these executives make. Even at smaller companies, you'll have executives that make $1 to $2 million a year with a base salary sometimes of just being $500,000 before they get their executive compensation. And on top of that, of course, we get taxed. We get, there's so many things out there that have then decreased our salary, just as taxes, just day-to-day expenses, such as rent, mortgage, whatever you call it. And we don't really have a lot of help outside of, because, we can't, of course, we're not going to be able to apply for government assistance or anything like that. So the one thing that we can do, if possible, would be to have a little bit of a fund, maybe, if possible, for employees where they say, hey, instead of the executives getting so much money every year, and it's not that they don't do much, but I'm just saying, like, if there was just a reserve for, like, daycare costs, maybe for housing allowances, for things that would help the employee in the long run feel a little bit less stressed out, maybe not require maybe as big of a salary, because they're able to meet a lot of their day-to-day expenses. I think, of course, the company's like, hey, why should we take on the burden for how things are? Well, overall, companies are what drive the economy. Companies are what make, set the prices for a lot of things. As much as we hate to say it, there is always a bottom line that, investors want, that executives want, that every single upper management and investor wants, that then drives profit margins, that drives all of these things, which then squeezes more people from the bottom to be paid less, to be overworked, and to not have much at the end of the day. So I think there is a disproportion in how not just the economy is functioning, but also how companies are currently operating. So overall, this is my 2 cents, and hopefully everyone out there, enjoyed this. So that is going to conclude our TikTok reactions, episode 15. I hope everyone out there has a blessed day, and adios, everyone.
Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing an amazing job, and I'm wishing everyone out there all the best. All right, until next time, adios.